I want to welcome each of you to the November 15th, 2023 Rotary Club of Columbus program. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to ask our past president, Ron King, to give the invocation today.
You can tell I have a name that nobody remembers. Stuart, we're glad you're here today. Would you pray with me? Gracious God, we remember that your prophet Isaiah wrote these words during a time of distress and tension, that those of us who wait upon the Lord shall renew our strength, that we'll mount up with wings like eagles, that we'll run and not grow weary, that we'll walk and not faint. May we never lose hope, dear God, during this season of Thanksgiving. We know you're working in the world. May we be your hands, your feet, your heart, bringing hope, help, healing, and peace to this fractured world through our work as Rotarians. We thank you for each one gathered here. We do not take for granted the food we eat, the clothes we wear, the vehicles we drive, the houses we live in, for we know that we are blessed beyond measure, and so many are not. We lift them up, and may we be your people working to make this world just and equitable for all. We pray for peace in our world as we celebrate this season of Thanksgiving, and we're especially grateful for this food, all who prepared it, for all who serve it, and for all who have celebrated it, for it is in your name. Amen. Somewhere there's a can. Look on your table and you'll find one. Put some money in it. It'll help people.
Thank you, Ron. Now for the news, Ben will give us the news for the day.
Thank you, President Taub. Today is November 15th, and here are your headlines. The House passes a plan to avert government shutdown. During a day that included heated verbal exchanges and startling physical aggressions, lawmakers on Capitol Hill passed the Republican plan Tuesday that would continue funding federal agencies until early next year, a critical step in averting a partial government shutdown. The 336 to 95 vote exceeded the two-thirds threshold required for passage and featured heavy Democrat support. The plan still requires approval from the Democratic-controlled Senate, where leaders of both parties have signaled support. Local entrepreneurs pitched to win up to $15,000. On Thursday, 4 local startups went head-to-head at Biz Pitch Columbus, the region's largest business pitch competition, hosted by Startup Columbus and the D. Abbott Turner College of Business. The 4 entrepreneurs pitched to a group of local judges and an audience of over 200 to win a piece of $40,000 prize fund. The big winners of the night were Joseph Hamilton of 4 Second Football and Brittany Wheeler of Rose Maternity Company. And then finally, with Thanksgiving in 8 days, I wanted to share a few fun facts about the holiday where we're more than likely going to eat way too much. The first Thanksgiving was celebrated in 1621. Turkey was not on the menu, as it is today, but rather venison, duck, and goose were the main course. The average number of calories that is consumed on Thanksgiving is 4,500. Butterball answers more than 100,000 turkey cooking questions via their Butterball Turkey Hotline each November and December. And there are more than 54 million Americans that are expected to travel during Thanksgiving holiday this year. You can expect occasional rain throughout the day today with a high of 59 and a low of 51. Thank you.
Okay, Ben, thank you. Asante, would you introduce our visitors and guests today?
Thank you, President Tom. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all call the Butterball Turkey Hotline this Thanksgiving. I am excited to share that we have a total of 7 guests with us today, and we have several of them from our CSU family here. Ron Williams has 2 guests. He has Ted Lasharkis from CSU. And if you could just stand and wave to us so we can greet you. Thank you. And Ron Williams also has Gina Sheeks joining us from CSU as well. Thank you. Pat Donahue has two guests. First, Craig Butera, who is a retiring colonel from Fort Moore, and Nancy Marino, who's also from CSU. Deb Kidder has two guests joining us, also from CSU, Tisa Leonce and Fatty Mansour. And lastly, Betsy Covington has with her Kelly Parker from the Community Foundation. Thank you to all of our guests. We're glad that you have decided to join with us, and we welcome you and hope you come back.
So Christina will introduce our Ralph Puckett Jr. Soldier of the Week, Staff Sergeant Seth Piper.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. It is my absolute pleasure to have the honor to do this today. I am the daughter of a World War II lieutenant colonel who would be turning 106 next year. So this is a real honor for me. As Tom said, this is Staff Sergeant Seth Piper. Staff Sergeant Piper is a 35F all-source intel analyst and serves as an intelligence instructor at the Reconnaissance Surveillance Leaders Course at Fort Moore, Georgia. Staff Sergeant Piper has served in many leadership roles as an intel analyst to include observer controller trainer at the National Training Center in Fort Irwin, the NCOIC for G2-3 ground operations and strategic planning at the Pacific Ocean Command, and he has one non-combat tour of service in support of the Korean Defense Support. He has completed many courses and schools, including the Reconnaissance Surveillance Leader Course, Basic Airborne Course, Master Trainer Small Unmanned Systems, Advanced Leader Course, and Basic Leaders Course. He has been awarded and decorated many times, to include the Joint Service Commendation Medal, the Army Commendation Medal, the Army Achievement Medal ×4, the Army Good Conduct Medal ×4, the National Defense Service Medal, the Korean Defense Service Medal, the Army Service Ribbon, and the Basic Army Instructor Badge. Wow. Staff Sergeant Piper was born in Vancouver, Washington. He joined the Army in the August of 2015, where he attended basic combat training at Fort Jackson and then advanced individual training at Fort Huachuca. Staff Sergeant Piper has been married to his wife Irene since 2019, and they have one daughter, Elora, who was born in July of 2022. It is my pleasure to present to you several commemorative items to honor your visit here today. All right, this is my first time. The first is the Rotary Challenge coin, which you can hold on to as a commemoration of being here today, as well as this certificate representing the Colonel Ralph Puckett Jr. Soldier of the Week. Colonel Ralph Puckett was my neighbor from 1962 to 1965 when he was at the Pentagon and my dad was at the State Department in Northern Virginia. How about that? We also have for you a passport to the arts here in Columbus, which includes 2 tickets to our River Center, the Columbus Symphony Orchestra, the National Infantry Museum, the Columbus State University Theater Department, and the Springer Theater. So enjoy that very much. Also is an inscribed and signed book written by Colonel Puckett of his story of being the 2021 Medal of Honor recipient and much of his time in Korea. So this is for you. Please join me in a round of applause and a welcome to Staff Sergeant Piper, and we enjoy for you to share with us anything you'd like to.
So all I want to say is that I appreciate everything you guys have done for me in support of the fort. I also want to say God bless our troops and God bless us as we all go on to endeavor and do things in His name.
Thank you. Staff Sergeant Piper, on behalf of our 270 members, we want to thank you for joining us today, and you're welcome back at any time. And please take our well wishes and regards and appreciation to your fellow soldiers.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'm going to ask our GRSP Vice Chair, Ian Bond, and our GRSP student, Mita, come forward.
President Tom, I'd actually like you to come down and join us. Fellow Rotarians, it's always a joy to present a Will Watt Fellowship representing a donation of $1,000 to the Georgia Rotary Student Program Foundation, the income from which helps pay for wonderful students like Mia to spend a year with our club and at Columbus State University. So our recipient today is none other than President Tom. And while Tom is resuming his seat, I've got one announcement to make. As a thank you from the Rotarians in Norway for the many students from Norway who over the decades have passed through the Georgia Rotary Student Program, they provide 3 scholarships to Georgia students, one from each of the Georgia Rotary districts, to attend the International Summer School in Oslo at Oslo University. Over the years, we've had a number of students who have applied, nominated by members of this club, and we've also had the privilege of sending several students from Columbus State University on that experience. Eric is already promoting it on campus at CSU, but I want to let you know that if you have children or grandchildren who might fit the criteria, they have to have completed their sophomore year by the end of spring semester 2024, and they must be between the ages of 20 and 24 and ready for an experience of a lifetime. The program is June 24th through August 2nd in Oslo, and it is an all expenses paid. When I say all expenses, about all they have to pay for other than their spending money is to get to Atlanta Hartsfield Airport. Other than that, everything else is paid for by the Rotarians in Norway. So we'd love to see applicants from members of this club, applicants from students at CSU. The only thing we do ask is that the student needs to be enrolled in a college or university in the state of Georgia. Now, this is the District 6900 scholarship, so preferably in District 6900, or at least their home address is in District 6900. If you need any more information, get in touch with me or with Eric, and Julie is going to put some information in a forthcoming Rotobit. Thank you.
Okay, we have a very special recognition today, and I'm going to ask Miss Ethel Jones to come forward. Ethel is a familiar face here on Wednesdays, and I want to tell you that she's been a familiar face here with us for 40 years. Ethel, you can come in here. So Ethel, in Rotary, one of our themes is service above self. And as I think about you and your gift to us each week for 40 years, I think you exemplify the very value that we hold forth. And so today, I'm going to give you a program from today, so you remember the date, and a Rotary pen, because today you are an honorary Rotary member. Thank you. Do you want to say anything? Or?
just want to say it's been a pleasure serving y'all, and I just love y'all.
Thank you, Ethel. Okay, a couple of quick announcements. It's that time of the year for the Christmas bell ringing. December 7th, 10 to 6, Hobby Lobby or Walmart, the same places we've had for a number of years now, and the sign-up sheets are in the back. I want to highlight also the special happy hour mix tomorrow at the Epic from 5:30 to 7:30. And please let Julie know today if you're attending, and also if you'd like to stay for a dinner tomorrow night. So at this time, I'm going to ask Ron to come forward, introduce a very special guest for today, and we're looking forward to this presentation.
Thank you, President Tom. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and guests. It is certainly my privilege to stand before you to introduce Dr. Stuart Rayfield, who is the 6th president of Columbus State University. An Alabama native, Dr. Rayfield earned a bachelor's degree in political science from Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. She then earned a master's in higher education administration with an emphasis in student affairs from the University of Alabama, before earning her doctorate in higher education administration from the Department of Leadership, Policy, and Organizations from Vanderbilt University. Dr. Rayfield's higher education career includes many senior-level experiences. Most notably, her work at Columbus State began in 2006 when she served as an assistant professor, later holding the Frank D. Brown Distinguished Chair in Servant Leadership. Prior to her service in the University System of Georgia at several institutions and at our system office, Dr. Rayfield held positions at Auburn, Vanderbilt, Middle Tennessee State, and the University of Alabama. Though academic excellence and progressive advancement in one's career is important, I believe what is most salient about a career is the ability to adequately define your why. Why is it that we engage in our life's work? While working directly with Dr. Rayfield as her chief of staff, I know firsthand that she has adequately defined her why. She is demonstrably committed to student success, and she's actively involved in effectuating positive change. As an academic leader, she is an independent thinker who has strategically set the stage for positively enhancing the core curriculum to ensure that it aligns with student learning outcomes and successful career progression for students who earn degrees from Columbus State University. This work may eventually be used as a model at other University System of Georgia colleges and universities. Ladies and gentlemen, guests, fellow Rotarians, please help me welcome our local university president, Dr. Stuart Rayfield.
Thank you, Ron. It is a delight and an honor to be here with you all today. It's very nice to look out on some familiar faces and also to see some new faces who I hope I'll get an opportunity to meet either today or over the course of time. So thank you for having me here. I want to thank all of my CSU colleagues who are here, who came out to hear me speak. Unfortunately, they're probably going to they could probably give this speech in a lot of ways. But I do want to share some information about the university and the direction that we're headed with my leadership coming on board. For those of you who don't know, and Ron referenced this, I was a faculty member at Columbus State University for 10 years, from 2006 to 2016. And I will tell you, I have had the opportunity to work at many other universities officially and in many universities unofficially when I was working at our system office. And never a day went by where Columbus State has not been my institution where I felt the most at home and the most connected. And so to come back to this institution after 7 years of being gone is really a dream come true for me. It's a dream I never had, but it is a dream for which I am so excited to be here. And so just so you know, my family and I, we've never left Columbus. So as I've traveled to Bainbridge, Georgia, and Barnesville, Georgia, Carrollton, and Atlanta, our home has always been in Columbus because we feel so connected to this community. And I see Joseph Brandon in the background. I live 2 doors down from him. He can attest. He saw me leaving at 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. to go where I was going. But Columbus is our home. My husband and I are not from Columbus, but we have made Columbus our home for us and for our 2 daughters. And it is a special place to be. And those of you who are here today, you know that. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But as an outsider coming in, Columbus has welcomed us, and it has been the place where we have felt the most at home. Several of you have heard me tell this story before, but David and I were traveling back to God's country in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, for a football game one weekend, and this is when we were fairly newly married, and we only had 1 daughter at the time, and I guess it was Mega Millions at the time, was up to about 300 plus million, which was actually a lot of money at the time. So now, it's like 2 billion. But so we were talking about which houses we might want, what we loved in Columbus. And my husband looks at me and says, well, if we win the lottery, we don't have to live in Columbus. And we were like, yeah, we don't. So we started thinking about where else we would want to go, and we both came to the realization that we would stay in Columbus and that neither one of us would quit our jobs. He's an attorney in town. I was working with one of your guests today, Kelly Parker, at the time, with the CSU Servant Leadership Program, and we both loved what we did. And so the money was not going to impact our careers, but it may have impacted which house we lived in. But I say all of that to say that I want you all to know, as members of this community and leaders in this community, that I'm committed to Columbus State University and its success. It is very personal to me that I'm able to stand before you today and talk about Columbus State. I think there's some really exciting things that are already going on at Columbus State, and I think there's some other things that we're going to be doing in the future. So I want to share with you a few of our priorities right now and tell you a little bit about some of the things that are already going on at Columbus State that you're hopefully going to hear more about in the future. I also want to be mindful of my time today. So at the beginning of our semester back in August, which seems like 100 years ago, I really shared with the campus some of the things that I wanted us to spend some time on. And Ron referenced one of those things. He talked about it as kind of personal to me. But I challenged the campus to really think about why Columbus State University is important and why the work we do is important. I want Columbus State to be able to answer the why it does what it does before it is talking about the how we do it and what we do. Simon Sinek, for those of you who've seen his TED Talk, he really talks about that golden circle, and he says organizations that understand and can articulate their why are significantly more successful than those who are only able to articulate what it is they do and how they do it. So for us, we're spending some time right now talking about why Columbus State. And I think in order for us to be able to answer that question, we've got to really look back to the founding of Columbus State University. And I shared with folks that this university was really founded at the will of this community. It took about 15 years of talking about why it was important for Columbus to have an institution of higher education before we actually landed on the docket back in 1958. And I say that because the reason, as far as I have read and heard, for the need for an institution of higher learning here in Columbus, Georgia, was for 2 purposes. It was to grow a workforce and to grow a middle class. And I think that still remains so much of our mission today, is to connect what we are doing on our campus to what is going on in this community and in this region. And to that end, it's really about making sure that our students, when they leave us as graduates of our institution, are employees of choice. And they are employees of choice because you all can count on the experiences and the education that we have had over time, that those students have had during their time with us. We're working on some amazing programs. We're looking at our academic degree programs to say, what are we missing? What are we not doing that we ought to be doing? I am kind of in the middle of a herniated disc, and I'm trying to get an appointment with a physical therapist, and I can tell you right now that we are in desperate need of physical therapists in town. But in all seriousness, looking at the workforce needs of this community and how do we best meet those. So to that end, we had a group back in April who got together, and this was before I officially started, but I was fortunate enough that Dr. Fuchko invited me to participate in the conversation, and I think a couple of you in this room may have been present for that. We took some community and industry leaders, and then we also took some of the leaders on our campus, but leaders within our academic affairs unit in particular. We got in a room and really started talking about, okay, what is the next for Columbus, Georgia? And then over the course of 2 days, really landing on, and how does CSU fit into that? And so again, we, coming out of that, it really was that CSU was going to become a catalyst for developing the workforce and meeting the community needs. It's not just the workforce needs, but it's also our community needs as we move forward. And so we're working currently with Fort Moore. We've already had conversations with AFLAC, with TSYS Global Payments, as well as with Piedmont and St. Francis. And we're just getting started. And the question that we're asking them is, what are your needs? What are your greatest pain points in terms of workforce, and how can we meet those needs? And I will tell you what we are hearing consistently over and over again is that our graduates are coming out technically proficient in whatever their degree is in. But they're not great at communication, at problem solving, at critical thinking, at taking initiative, and sometimes professionalism. I had one person say, if I could get somebody to maybe show up without wearing bunny slippers, that would be great. I won't say where that was. But I think it's important for us to recognize that we're hearing those same things across the state and across the nation. We have done such a good job of getting the technical components of our degree programs right that we have, I think, lost some of our ability and our commitment to getting those soft skills right. And so to that end, as Ron mentioned, we are going to be looking at our general education core curriculum and making sure that all of the classes that our students take as a result of the core curriculum really do have a career competency impact, so that they are learning and articulating critical thinking skills, communication skills, professionalism, what it's like to work in an environment, because the world has changed because of COVID, and now that we are back at it, some of the practices that started during COVID haven't gone away, and so we're going to put those bunny slippers back in the closet and teach our students what it means to be in a real work environment. And so we're doing what we can on that end. We're also hoping that our partners with Columbus Tech as well as Muskogee County School District, that this is going to be something that we approach as a community. I said in my investiture speech a while back that one of the things that I want for this community, and I think we're right there, is that the educational ecosystem in this community becomes the envy of every other community, because we are lockstep with one another in what we're doing and streamlining the offerings that we have. So as we think about kind of our why and we go forward on that, I also think we've got to step back and really look at our data. And as you all and your organizations are keenly aware, we have access to inordinate amounts of data. But how do we make sense of that data to be able to make decisions? And so we are working right now on really solidifying our data sources and making sure that we have the right data and information available to us so that we can make the best decisions possible. It's going to take a while for us to get it because there's so much information. I was in a meeting earlier this week and we were I wanted somebody to be able to articulate what our retention rate was. How many students were here last fall are now here this fall? And I can't tell you the versions of that answer that I got. And I kept saying, this is a simple question. They were like, well, are you talking about people who just started last fall? I said, no, I'm talking about every student who was enrolled last fall. How many of them are still enrolled or graduated? And so the data definitions and the way we can interpret data, we can make it say whatever we want. But I want us to be able to have the right information to be able to move the institution forward. And without the right information, I don't think that we're going to be able to do the work that really needs to be done. I'm going to also mention, some efficiency and empowerment. I am so, when I worked at Columbus State University, I was so proud to work there. I felt like, I really felt like an first string quarterback for UGA working at Columbus State. It really was. It was such a pleasure to work here. And my colleagues, it was so great. And that still exists today, but everybody's been through a lot. And that's not just at Columbus State, it's in all of our organizations. And so I want to create a campus culture that is really defined by empowerment and allowing people to be able to make the decisions that they need to make to do their job. And I'll give you an example, and I've used this example, so y'all probably getting tired of hearing about it, but it's just, it was one of those light bulb moments for me. In higher education, as well as being a public institution, the layers of bureaucracy that we have created for ourselves are just confounding oftentimes. And during the beginning of the pandemic, we didn't know what our budget situations were going to be. This is true across all institutions. And so many institutions, including Columbus State, really kind of put a lockdown on the budget. So if you wanted to spend any money, we wanted to make sure it was on the right things. And so our provost was, if there was a box of pencils that were going to be purchased for one of our departments, our provost had to approve that through our system that was layered upon the department chair, the dean, and the provost. And so our provost was approving to a box of pencils, which we didn't think was probably where that decision needed to be made. It probably could be made a little bit earlier in the decision chain. So I was sharing this with our faculty senate, and unbeknownst to me, but I heard the story later, our dean of our College of Education and Health Profession leaned over to somebody and said, I approve $13 worth of turtle food every single week for Oxbow Meadows. And I thought, well, that's not where I want my dean to be spending her time. Presumably, we've got to feed these turtles every week. And so, can we approve this once? But this gets to, you've got a problem, you create a solution, and then you're multiple months, years down the road, and that same solution is in effect for a problem that no longer exists. And so we are trying to unpack and pull back the layers of all of our processes. We've got a team that is sitting down with some of our processes that receive the most opportunities for change, and trying to say, what does that look like and what should it look like, and kind of boiling it down to the most fundamental place that those decisions need to lie. So empowerment, but coupled with efficiency. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is it is the most important thing, and that's really around student success. Right now, Columbus State saw a pretty significant drop in its retention during the pandemic, and we have made some strides on recovering that, but we've got a little bit further to go. And so some of you may be familiar, Georgia State University, after it consolidated with Georgia Perimeter, really had you took a research institution and you combined it with an access institution. And so their graduation rates fell significantly once they added in their access mission. And so over the course about the last 15 years, the president there at the time, Mark Becker, who is widely known as one of the most innovative presidents in the nation for higher education, he started saying, we really ought to use data analytics to interact with our students. If we know that there are things about a student's profile that we know will be trouble for them, how do we interact with them earlier and sooner? And what role are we playing in their ability to not be successful, or their inability to be successful? And so they have done a lot of work where they have grown from having a graduation rate of about mid 30%, I think it's like about 35, 36%, to a graduation in the 50% range at Georgia State. And if you look at students who attended that institution, who started there and graduated anywhere in the U.S., they have a graduation rate of 83%. And that is enormous to make that kind of change in such a short period of time. And so during the past 15 years, other institutions have gone to them and said, what is your secret? How are you doing this? And so recently they started the National Institute for Student Success. Well, they will come to your campus, interact with your data, talk to your folks, and find out where these barriers exist for your students. And so we are in the middle of that. Ron is leading that effort, and we should have their diagnostic report in January sometime. And we're already learning some things. We've pulled back on some of our first year experience activities after COVID, and so we've got to do a better job of interacting with our students during the first year. Our advising, our organizational structures, and some of our policies don't make sense. And there's just the way they've been for a long time, but they're really getting in students' way. So we're looking at how we can help our students be more successful and to truly engage them. Last night we had a holiday tree lighting following our women's basketball game, which we won resoundingly. But we had students were invited, our faculty and staff were invited, and we had probably had about 500 people there, and it truly felt like a community, and that's what we want. We want that for our faculty, for our staff, and for our students, is that we are a community. We are a community of scholars, but we also are members of the Columbus and the Chattahoochee Valley community, and our goal is for our students to have experiences that connect them not only to our university, but to this community. And we want them to stay here, we want them to work here, we want them to live here. And so we are partners with you and your organizations as we move through this. I will highlight some of our innovative programs that I think that you will have the opportunity to see more of in the future. Our cybersecurity program is a set of stackable credentials. And I think the stackable credentials piece of this is going to be what education looks like in the future. So a student can come to Columbus State University in Deb Kidder's College of Business and Technology and can take 30 hours of cybersecurity courses. And let me just tell you, so you can share this with anybody you know, you don't have to have any experience with computers to do this. So don't think that this is someone who knows how to use computers well. You come in fresh and without any experience, and in 30 hours over the course of 1 year, you'll pay $7,200, and you will graduate with that certificate and 4 industry certifications, and you are likely to be hired in about the $75,000 range coming straight out with those 30 hours. But if you have the core curriculum already, if you've already had a bachelor's degree, you're actually going to get a Nexus degree. If you want to stay and take the core curriculum, those 30 hours transfer straight in to a Nexus degree, which is a new upper level 2-year degree versus an associate degree that's really at the lower level. And then when you finish that, all of that transfers straight into a bachelor's degree in computer science. And so what we really want to be able to do in this very fast-paced Amazon get it to me now world is get students something early so they can be participating in the workforce sooner, but they can also continue their educational journey with us. In our College of Education, David Lewis has been such a great partner with Muskogee County School District. If you go to Columbus State University, graduate with your education degree, if you pass the GACE and meet their other requirements, you have guaranteed employment with Muskogee County School District. There are not any other districts where this is going on, and we think we're a good model for what it ought to look like. We're partnering in our education, our health professions, in nursing, really partnering with Piedmont as well as St. Francis to make sure that we're meeting the needs in terms of our nursing and healthcare. We recognize that there are some high demand careers out there, and we need to be providing the pipeline to those degrees. I would be remiss if I didn't highlight some of our College of the Arts programs, because when we talk about workforce development in this community, we're not just talking about jobs. We're talking about what makes this community attractive to people to move into. And I think our College of the Arts offers a cultural center for this community, whether it's our School of Music, whether it is our theater department, or it is our art department or communications. We have an opportunity, I think, to really impact workforce development in a different way that makes our community more attractive. So I am very optimistic and excited about what we're doing at Columbus State University. And I think that we've got a bright future ahead. We've got a lot of work to do. I tell people we are not free from challenges, but we are also not free of people who want to really tackle those challenges. And so we're fortunate that we've got a good team that is kind of raring to go. And for those of you in this room who I think probably we'll remember John Lester. We're excited to announce that he is going to be returning back to Columbus State starting January 1st, and we couldn't be more excited to have him back in our community and helping us tell our story in meaningful ways. So I don't know if y'all normally take questions or anything, but thank you again for your time. I hope I didn't speak too long. It looks like we're almost out of time, but thank you so much.
Thank you. So, Dr. Rayfield, we want to say we're glad you're home. And to commemorate your sharing today, we're going to put a children's book inscribed with your name in the Columbus Library. I'd like to re-welcome all of our visiting Rotarians and guests, Staff Sergeant Piper, certainly. And thank you again for joining us. And please, as I said before, tell your fellow soldiers how much we appreciate what they do every day. Mia, how was the week?
Hello. So it was the student weekend. That was fun, but we were like playing and doing stuff outside, and I was freezing. It was bad. And then, so a fun story was that my host parent was like my sister's host parent. So he was like, "Are you Antonella's sister?" I was like, "Yes." He was like, "Oh, fun, I was his host parent." It was very fun, and he showed me pictures of my sister, and very nice. And Thanksgiving, I'm going with my sister. That's going to be fun, and yes, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, there is no program next week, so everyone, I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving and safe travels. Then on November 29th, we will have Danielle Patterson-Varner and Keith McCoy talking about one of our community gyms, the Springer Opera House. The directories are in the back, and pick them up, or if you're online, please let us know you want us to send you one. And Ron, would you lead us in the four-way test?
Of all the things you think, say, or do, first, is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Go in peace.